Welcome back to the channel, folks. Today we're going to do a full walk around on the first gen Tacoma. So this here is a 1998 Toyota Tacoma, first generation. It's got 4-wheel drive. It's a 5-speed manual, no e-locker, no factory locker or anything like that. Basically what I want to do today is start walking around the whole truck we'll start with the outside, work our way in, go over the suspension, wheels, tires, roof rack, solar, jump into the camper, show you guys inside, and just kind of break it down and do a full review for, I guess, 2024 before I get rid of this topper and really change up the truck. Starting up at the front of the truck, you can tell I'm just rocking the stock bumper. Not much has changed here. This thing was extremely faded black, so all I did was hit it with some rattle can black spray paint and kind of just brought it back to life. Eventually I'll be doing 2 bumpers, but it definitely made a world of a difference just to hit it with some paint. I'm also rocking some Nove Sight floodlights for the front end, and these come with an amber color, and if you take the lenses off, it'll just be a clear 6,000 Kelvin light, and they work pretty well paired with the high beams when I'm wheeling at night. It does the trick. When I picked up this truck, I did replace the grille, which is already kind of starting to fade on the outside, but I did have the one, I think it was chrome out here with the black inner portion there, but I swapped that out for kind of an all black one. I think it's a little bit of a more clean look. I also went ahead and swapped out or installed one of these bug guards or hood protector guards. I just think it kind of adds a nice like 90s look to the truck with it being a 1998, as well as keeps like rock chips off the front of your hood and makes, you know, bugs kind of do a zing off the top of it. So that it serves multiple purposes. I've also gone ahead and added the clear corners here instead of having the orange in there. That was something I did pretty early on. I know a lot of these trucks come with orange markers here. When I got the truck, these were already clear. So I don't know if the previous owner had swapped them out or if it actually came from the factory with clear markers down here, but that's how mine is. I do have a 6,000 Kelvin LED kit in the headlights, and it definitely does the trick. It brings the truck into a new light, if you will, no pun intended. I definitely get a fair amount of questions on this roof rack here. So as you can tell, I have the extended cab. It's only a 2-door Tacoma, and the issue with that is most roof racks are either really thin or they don't extend beyond the front door. That's kind of the same thing, but I found this one, and it's a no drill-in roof rack, so I didn't have to, unlike the Prinsu rack, drill into the roof of the Tacoma, which I think is a plus. Like, I'm trying to keep this thing as clean as possible. And it also has a factory sunroof. And with the Prinsu rack, I believe it sits just too low for me to actually be able to pop that sunroof anymore. On top of the roof rack, I have a 100-watt solar panel. It's just the Harbor Freight Special. It's powering my battery bank that's in the back of the truck. I'll get to that. But it honestly does the trick. I used to have a 50-watt panel in there, and it would charge the battery, but it's definitely not nearly as effective as the 100-watt. Doubling the amount of watts coming in from the solar has really made a world of a difference. Another quick little thing I did was add these rain guards. It rains a ton around here in Tennessee, and when it rains, it really rains. And being able to just crack the windows a little bit to kind of deal with the condensation and humidity inside the truck is really nice. Now, when I picked up this truck, it had some kind of American racing style, much more deep dish wheels, and honestly, the tire setup came out like this far beyond the fender. Shortly after buying the truck, I sold those wheels and bought these ones used with the tires on Facebook Marketplace. They're Nitto Terra Grapplers. They are 285, I'm going to say 75 16s. And so the reason I went with a 16-inch wheel is I upgraded the calipers to the, I think it's 13 WL. It's I want to say a first-gen Toyota Tundra caliper up front, which just helps with braking power. It's a bigger piston caliper, so that's really nice. For suspension up front, I'm running some Old Man Emu springs. I want to say they're 880s. And for the shocks themselves, I'm running some Bilsteins. As far as the upper control arms, I just did these. These are actually some JBA upper control arms, which just provide a lot more adjustability for caster, and it has immensely improved the ride quality. I think I was kind of at the point where I needed to do upper ball joints on the control arms, and I just, instead of going through all that effort of pressing them out, pressing them into the stock control arms, I figured I'd bite the bullet, pick up some JBAs, and so far so good. The only thing I don't like about it is their hot racing wheel hot red. I hate how bright they are when everything else on the truck is so neutral. But I guess they could always be powder coated. Not the end of the world. For rear suspension, I've actually done a Chevy 63 leaf spring swap. So these are actually Chevy leaf packs off of like, a lot of Chevys had these. They're off of like a half-ton Chevy that ran from like 1995 all the way up to like 2008 or something. And then I've got the low-range off-road swap kit. I've also gone ahead and added some longer Bilstein shocks just to make that swap work, because these leaf springs flex so much that you needed the extra shock length to be able to match that. And then for anyone who's curious, these are actually 6-inch shackles. I do think I want to maybe go down to like a 4 or 5-inch shackle. And I don't know how well the camera picks that up, but the truck's got a little bit of a rake to it, so it sits a little lower in the front than it does in the rear. And I've actually removed the overload leaf on that leaf pack, so it's actually already been reduced. And I think next up I'm gonna try maybe doing some shorter shackles to try and drop that back end a little bit. But it's nice to have that flexibility. Like I said, I've got a new camper shell on the way. It will be here sometime in November, and it'll be nice if I need to put that overload leaf back in. So there's a lot of customization, a lot of flexibility with it, which is what I've enjoyed so far. On the back of the truck, stock bumper, definitely hoping to swap this out at some point. Oh, I also forgot to mention, I've got a 1-inch body lift, so you can maybe see that from the rear bumper. When I picked up this truck, it had like a 3-inch body lift, so they were pretty massive pucks that I downsized to a 1-inch. I kept the 1-inch instead of doing no body lift, just because I actually enjoyed the ability to get a little more clearance while working on things underneath the car. And I think it does help with rubbing, especially with all the added flex of the suspension. It just gives me a little bit more space before I start hitting those fenders. And it's not the end of the world, but this thing will also get swapped out with a tube bumper eventually. I did install a little reverse camera, just easy, cheap little mod. And I get a lot of questions on this camper shell. When I bought the truck, it was paint peeling silver. It was in really, really rough shape. It's just a fiberglass shell. I don't know the exact model or even the brand of it, but I've done some research and I believe it's a Lear 122. It's basically made for this first gen Tacoma, so it could be honestly as old as the truck, so it'd probably be a pretty old Lear. I did go ahead and do a whole remodel on it. I went ahead and had it paint matched to the truck. They didn't even take the paint code. They actually measured the paint, the aged paint from the Tacoma, and matched it to this exact truck, which is really cool. And went ahead and tinted the rear, all the glass, pulled it all out, tinted all that with like 20%. And that's about it for the rear. I did also swap out the taillights because there were some really jank, like aftermarket taillights that didn't work so well. Now inside the truck bed is probably what you guys are most excited for. So I went ahead and did an entire build out in this thing because I'd like to go camping a lot. And so we've got an entire bed set up made out of wood. And I've got a fridge, power bank, but let me bring you guys closer and we'll kind of dig around and show you what's in here. So I've had multiple renditions of this truck bed camper. I used to actually have a wooden counter here with basically rails that ran the whole length that I could set more wood on top of to extend the bed. I ended up taking that out just because most of my camping I do solo. So I added the fridge, which obviously removing the counter obviously made a lot more room for it. So it's a nice dual zone fridge. It's got freezer and fridge options by Bouge RV. Really love this thing. Really love the stainless. I've had a couple different fridges, and this one is so far my favorite just because it pulls kind of the least amount of power from my power bank. It's got a nice little bottle opener there. The handles are sprung, which I know sounds silly, but it's nice that they're flush and collapse with it, and they're not always extended. I don't know. I have a lot of great things to say about this fridge. But mostly it's the fact that it's all stainless. I think with where I'm going with this camper build, when I redo it, it's going to look really nice in here. Now, besides the sleeping platform, probably the most used thing in here is the kitchen drawer, which is about, I would say about a maybe 3.5 foot drawer, which obviously holds everything. It's got lots of cylinders of propane, which I'm trying to use these up. I've had these forever, and I don't like using the green grenades. I'm going to eventually get like a nice 5-gallon refillable propane tank, which I think is a better route. But I've got my stove in here, cookware, pots, pans. We've got a whole bunch of coffee stuff in here. Just, the usual suspects. Seasonings, I've got it kind of organized in a good way that is efficient. I hate getting to camp and like having to fumble through everything, and the drawer just one keeps everything out of sight, but it's also pretty easy to manage and organize. So this drawer, can't say enough about it. Now I've got like an entire video series on building out this wood section, so if you guys are interested, make sure you go check out those videos on my channel. But basically my dad and I, over the course of a weekend, built this entire wooden section out of, it's mainly 1/2-inch plywood, and I think in some spots we actually used maybe 1/4 inch, but essentially we started with 2 floor pieces. I took the truck bed mat that was in here and I traced it out onto wood, and that we made it basically gave us a way to drill everything down into. Instead of having just an open truck bed, the wood in there really keeps everything nice and sturdy. So we drilled that in there. Sorry, not into the truck bed. It just sits really snug based on how we cut it. And then we drilled or screwed all the bed platform and the drawer slides and all that into the floor. I've also got a bit of a headboard back there, which just, again, not even drilled in, not screwed in or anything. It just sits so perfectly in between the back of the Tacoma's bed that it doesn't budge at all and actually adds some rigidity to it, and also allows me to pocket hole screw the bed and the sides here into the headboard, so it's really mounted to the floor as well as there and makes it pretty darn sturdy. So hopping up into the truck bed, kind of go over some more of the interior, I picked up these magnetic puck lights, and so part of the rebuild of this camper shell was adding some carpet insulation. So I was able to basically stick on some little magnet strips, and then these just sit right up there on top of it. And these are pretty cool because you can do a couple different color temperatures with them, but also comes with a remote, so I can turn them all off or turn them all on at the same time, turn up brightness, turn it down, that sort of thing. It's really nice, honestly, just having kind of a hands-free situation where you don't have to be constantly like reaching around and tapping things with the remote, just turn it on and off. I do have some of these kind of floor mats that you kind of just puzzle piece together from Harbor Freight. They're like $9 for a set of 4, and I used 3 of them to cover the bed. It just makes a better seating platform. Underneath the bed, I do have a storage bin, which is about from here all the way back, and then the full width of the bed. I keep my inflatable mattress, camp chair, blankets, towel. I actually have an awning in here that I put out on super rainy days. And the whole goal of this truck bed, if you've done any truck camping, organization is key. So being able to stow everything away and just pull it out when needed is really nice. Plus, kind of ADHD with that. I hate like visually seeing a mess in the truck. So having everything just tucked underneath the bed, so great. To the left of the drawer, I actually kept this entirely open. So besides the wheel well or the wheel arch, it runs the whole length. You can actually fit like a 6-foot rod fishing pole back there. Right now I have the broom for sweeping out the truck. I've got a hatchet, some bungee straps for the kayak when I put it in here. I haven't used this yet, but I've got a giant machete. Some miscellaneous cords for the power bank, the old poop shovel, as well as a little carpet that I'll usually lay out on the inside of the fridge there. And it just kind of makes it feel a little bit more homey. And in the wintertime, it's honestly nice to just have your feet on carpet and not on the bare wood. So that's about the entire truck build. I wanted to do a quick walk around in 2024, especially before this camper shell gets removed and I start changing out the interior of the camper. And obviously it'll be a whole new setup. So I wanted to kind of document this for you guys as well as for myself as a remembrance. I've really been camping. I've camped in this thing dozens of times. I can't even, I've lost count. And it's helped me out in some stealth camping situations because it's pretty discreet. You can just hop in here, make like trips down to the airport, and sometimes on the flight back I get home late. Makes for a great, just pull off at Buc-ee's and camp out for the night and then do the rest of the drive in the morning. So I wanted to get this thing documented, especially while it was all dialed. I've spent many months changing things, rearranging things, organizing things in better ways. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. Look forward to basically V2 of this entire truck build. We're going to swap it all out. And thank you guys so much for watching. Keep elevating, my friends. Adios.